Hey folks, welcome back to Fantastic Daily, where I make the creepy and the unexplained entertaining for all of you. And folks, this is hot off the presses, okay? I warned you guys during the last live stream that the Twitter account Covert Disclosure was going to be answering some more questions, and we finally have them. I just received them, and I'm chomping at the bit to get these out of here. So I don't even have a script in front of me. I am just I'm just rocking and rolling, folks, because I want you guys to get these answers from this crazy Twitter account as soon as possible. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, there is a Twitter account called Covert Disclosure, and this person purports to work at a secret government facility where they're experimenting on cryptids and alternate dimensions and time travel and demonology and all this stuff. And we've asked them questions before, and they have answered with this very robotic, voice changing. You guys, you have to hear it to believe it. And it's amazing. There are other videos that I've made on this very same Twitter account, and I think people are split as to whether or not this is just like a creepy Twitter story or whether or not this is like the real thing. We've heard stories about people who work at Area 51, and they have they've blown the whistle and tried to explain what is going on there. And I think we're all left to wonder, is this a similar thing? Is this something where these secret government facilities, apparently they exist all over the world. Different countries have different operating bases, and this type of research is happening all over. And this person, they say they work there, so it's up to you folks to decide whether or not you believe it, but believe it or not, it is extremely interesting. So here is a new batch of questions that we have answers to, so I want to hear what you guys think about them. Now here's one last thing. If you guys have questions that you want to ask, make sure to hit me up on Twitter and either hashtag or at Covert Disclosure. Okay, make sure that you hashtag Covert Disclosure in your question. That allows me to search for that question, and I can make sure it gets answered for you guys, because I want to turn around more questions as quick as possible, because you guys don't get to see this, but Covert Disclosure, they're kind of hard to get into contact with. And I'll send an email, and it's like days go by, and I just assume it's because they're trying to keep their identity secret. That's why they distort their voice and I want to get more questions out as quick as possible. So while I have access to them, because they just emailed me and I want to make sure I can email them back with new stuff. So hit me up with new questions. I will try to get them answered, but let's just dive into this. You recently mentioned that a colleague was suspected of being a leak. How does your organization investigate and punish leakers such as yourself?
I've never been privy to the inner workings of an investigation, if you can even call it that. I balk at the idea of an actual investigation taking place due to the sheer speed with which suspected leaks are dealt. I've seen with my own eyes a person be accused of being a leak, attempting to remove items, artifacts, or technology, taking photos or videos, etc., be escorted off premises, which may or may not be accurate. That's what the security team always says, but for all I know, the person could have been just escorted out of the room and killed in the hallway. And then a memo circulating that they are no longer part of the organization, team, project, etc. And finally, a very credible rumor circulating regarding that person's liquidation. The higher-ups like to pretend they frown on these inaccurate rumors, but they somewhat rely on them to keep the fear of God in everyone.
Why are governments so fearful of full disclosure?
The only things a government fears are those things that are the opposite of what a government values most. Every government on earth values power, which basically requires control and money. So governments fear having decreased funds and lack of control, which would greatly reduce their power. Full disclosure would strike at the very heart of their worst fears, because it would mean admitting they've been lying, admitting they've been using portions of their populace as sacrificial lambs to keep ETs and some cryptids at bay. Not only would this mean that their control would become shakier than ever because of the anger of some of the population, but also due to the fear large portions of the population would have in regards to now knowing that aliens are not only out there, but also here, as well as the planet being home to species and creatures that have the potential to bump us from the top link of the food chain. What they've been doing isn't right, so their fear of revolution in this case isn't exactly unfounded. Any revolution, even just partially successful, like some states seceding from the U.S., We'd throw our existing agreements with ETs into question, best case, or chaos, worst case. There are those feel-good, we're all united against a common threat now, kumbaya moments in movies like Independence Day, but those sorts of people are going to be in the minority. There will also be idiotic people, insert appropriate political party here, who want to blindly embrace every alien and cryptid they can form a drum circle around, and that would just be a bad day for all involved.
You've mentioned a government-sponsored PR push to get people into forests or national parks. What is the goal of this PR push, and has it started yet?
It has begun. A few of my Twitter followers have seen television ads or heard the PR push on the radio. It's begun and only will become more prevalent as it proceeds into high gear. The goal of this PR push is to get more people into national forests to... There's no good way to say this, and if you've heard my previous interviews with Fantastic Daily, then you already know what I'm going to say. Serve as test subjects, sport, or food for cryptids and certain alien races.
Oumuamua, the recent mysterious visitor to our solar system, has been theorized as a comet, an alien probe, or a discarded piece of extraterrestrial garbage. What does your organization know about it?
We know that it's hollow. That fact alone is enough to terrify anyone with even the most rudimentary of astronomy education. The exterior is comprised of a metal that we believe may be a totally new element. Don't take my word for it, skepticism is good. Mainstream, Ivy League no less, scholars also concur that it's very likely an artificial object. We have detected other very similar objects in our solar system, and we're currently in the process of fact-finding with the extraterrestrials with whom we're friendly to see what they know, if anything.
Okay, now this one comes from a Twitter user. They ask, please ask Covert Disclosure if the funding for his research is from an acknowledged special access program or an unacknowledged special access program.
As I understand it, funding for facilities like this one come from various agencies and organizations within the home country and from certain interest groups who aren't constrained by borders or apparently ethics. Most governmental entities have bogus line items within their budgetary structure. Some of those line items help fund projects and facilities like mine. Private citizens and corporations use a series of shell companies to do the same.
What is the hive mind that you have described in your Twitter account that was trying to escape your facility?
The hive mind was a large colony of what we believe to have been extra-dimensional insects, for want of a better, more accurate word. Each looked like a cross between a Lycae-shield bug and a praying mantis, plus a skin coloration and texture-changing ability similar to that of a cuttlefish. They communicated with each other, always working as one. At first we thought they communicated via chemical secretions or pheromones, but we found that wasn't the case. Future plane experimentation may have revealed their communication medium, but now we may never know. These things weren't scary at all if you observed one separately from its hive, but unique enough you'd never forget it.
Can you give us an update on the Kepler telescope shutdown? What did it capture that is so secret?
I may have a very big update on this in the coming weeks.
What happened with the escaped demon in your facility?
Embarrassing to say, but it's either physically escaped or phased to another dimensional plane. I can't say I'm sorry it's not around anymore.
How many demonologists does your facility keep on hand at any one time? Do they have a scientific background, or is it a religious position?
Each facility tries to have at least one for each major belief system. I've met a few with scientific credentials, but most just function within the spiritual domain.
Can you explain the quantum folding experiments that your facility has been undertaking?
Basically, from my somewhat limited understanding, quantum folding is made possible by a combination of tachyons and reverse-engineered alien propulsion teleportation technology. It's been successful to a point, but we're greatly limited now by its unpredictability. You'll see some of my Twitter posts on the same subject.
Is déjà vu an understood phenomenon in your circles?
For the most part, there seems to be some disagreement as to what dictates the strength of the experience, but the phenomenon itself is almost certainly temporal in nature.
Is time travel actively being used by modern-day facilities like yours?
Not per se. We know now that it's possible, but we're not even far enough along in our understanding infancy. We're barely at the zygote stage.
So folks, this next one is one that I mentioned this on the live stream because I've really been trying to make this happen, but I asked if Covert Disclosure would be willing to submit to a voice interview by me, and if so, how can we arrange and preserve their anonymity? And this is what they had to say.
I would be willing to, but the logistics to preserve my identity would be a nightmare. This is something maybe we can do once my anonymity is no longer a consideration.
All right, folks. So that was all the questions that I asked this time, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think that this is real? Do you think that this is just a Twitter story? If you have questions for Covert Disclosure, make sure to tweet at me or at Covert Disclosure and hashtag Covert Disclosure. Okay, and that's how I will find these questions, and that's how I will make sure that they get them answered. So thank you, folks, for showing up. Stay tuned for more Covert Disclosure answers. That is all for me today, folks, but remember, if you liked this video, make sure to slam that like button, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you never miss any of my videos. And don't forget, you can follow me on all the social sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, pick your poison. You can say hi, or you can send me your evidence and stories. I would love to hear from you, and you can also call me on the Fantastic Daily phone line. You can leave me a comment, a question, or a story, and I will play it for the entire Fantastic Daily audience. And I will see you all tomorrow. And remember, folks, stay skeptical.